So like this is something that I do quite a lot around this time of year. So this is back in October of last year. It's about that time again. And I just go out and do mushroom foraging. These are what are called king boletes. This one's kind of funky, but this one's really good. And we just go out there and get a bunch of king boletes. Some of these are just not good. Like that one isn't, but it was so big that it was fun to bring home. This one here, delicious. King boletes are really tasty. So like Shay was actually trained by the Mycological Society, Washington State. So like we know what we're doing. Trained professional. Because mushrooms will kill you if you don't know what you're doing. King boletes are out here. And unfortunately, I can't eat those ones because I get indigestion from them, which happens. Yeah, don't try this if you don't know what you're doing, and don't watch a YouTube video and then do it. Don't get a book and then do it. Go to a local expert and learn about your local mushrooms because they're very different everywhere. Yeah, Shay was trained for this, and we basically just like learned a whole bunch about it. See, this one is all funky. It's just not good. But these ones are good. Those little ones are quite nice. And then this one was probably like, that's optimal. But we're going to go for chanterelles and lobster mushrooms. And chanterelles are great. They're really goddamn tasty. They're yellow and they're very cool looking. And you kind of peel back the moss to get it, like the undercoating of the forest. You peel it back and you'll find these underneath. And we're going to go hunt for those because they're very, very tasty. And they're expensive, so I don't want to buy them. I just want to go find them. Chanterelles are great. Lobster mushrooms are really cool as well. Lobster mushrooms are not actually the mushroom themselves. They're very odd. It is a invader parasitic fungus. So these look real funky, right? Like they're all cracked and strange. What about morels? I have morels that grow in the yard actually. So the last owner had a burn pit, and morels only grow around areas that have been burned, which was really cool. And I took a bunch of photos of those, and it was really, really nice, actually. So, like, the morel mushrooms have been really cool. Yeah, check this out. Look at them. Little dudes. Yeah, morel mushrooms. And they're not false morels or anything like that. We also have, if you look at these, we have giant puffball mushrooms here, too. There's a spot in the nearby forest that grows a giant puffball mushroom. And they just keep growing there. So I have morels and giant puffballs in the area, which is really cool. Yeah, you get softball-sized ones. Yeah, these are very tiny. I think it's because the burn pit is very small. It's not a lot of material for them. They can get a little bit bigger, but not very much. They just don't get that big. The interesting thing about morel mushrooms is they generate hydrazine naturally, which is it's a component in rocket fuel, which is toxic. So you have to cook them very thoroughly, but they also dry out really fast when you cook them. So you cook them on like super low heat for a long period of time, and then you eat them, or you get badly sick and go to the hospital. Mushrooms, don't screw around with them if you don't know what you're doing. Yeah, they're really dangerous. I do cultivation of lion's mane a lot of times because I like it. It's very tasty, and it's like a shaggy mushroom, right? Look at him. It looks like it's covered in hair, and you slice it, and then you can throw that in a pan, and it tastes just like a lobster. So I just slice it all up, and then just, cook it with a little bit of butter, a little bit of garlic, and then just like go for it. It's just tasty. But yeah, like I need to build another mushroom shed. So I'm going to build a mushroom shed, and it needs to have ventilation that's correct. Somebody doing that sometime soon. And here's some of the oysters that I grew. Those are bucket. Done. You can do that anywhere. Yuck. So here's the biggest thing. When you say yuck, have you ever had lobster before? Because these taste exactly like lobster. Same exact flavor. Same exact texture. It's wild. Most people who say yuck at mushrooms are probably only had, like, you ever had, the white mushrooms that come on pizza, or they're in salads and they're like raw. A lot of people find these to be slimy. They don't feel good, anything like that, whatever it's going to be. You may have also had, and these are kind of like, they're considered a little more gourmet. This is the cremini mushroom. They're like brown caps. And then another really popular one is the portobello mushroom. And those are like the big cap. You can like open it up. People replace like hamburgers and shit with them when they're vegan. They'll do like hamburger stuff. There's these. There's the portobellos. Yeah, it's Agaricus bisporus. It's just the different life stages of it. So this is when it's really young, this is when it's middle, and this is when it's at the end of its life. It's done. So this is exactly the same mushroom. So if you don't like these mushrooms, you may want to try mushrooms outside of these, the gourmet mushrooms, the real gourmet mushrooms that are not these, because this is the same mushroom. And most people try these and they're like, I don't like mushrooms. I was like, you haven't had mushrooms, you've had mushroom. The singular one, the Agaricus bisporus. Yeah, it's the same mushroom. They're just selling it to you at its different lifestyle, like our life stage. Truffles are overrated? I would agree with you on that. I think you can get a lot more flavor out of it. It's sad because I really like king boletes, but they make me sick. They give me indigestion, which sucks. I like shiitakes. I actually grow shiitakes. So this was my first grow of shiitakes, and you see how long they are, and they're kind of pale. I didn't have enough oxygen because they breathe oxygen and they breathe out carbon dioxide like people do. And then because there wasn't enough oxygen, they reached really far. And then because there wasn't enough light, they were really pale. So I'm going to show you what they look like when they're actually done correctly. And these are really tasty. And this was my second batch when I learned from that. And you can see the color is much better. The size is much better. The fact that they're not really long and leggy is much better. So like I learned how to set up the conditions to do this correctly. And this is after you shave them, right? When you chop all the mushrooms off. But this was my second batch. So this is the first one, not so good. This is the second one, much better. And like this is me learning that process, and you can see like how much nicer this is now. And then what I do is I put them inside of a food dehydrator. And then what I'll do is I'll take all the stems and like weird looking ones, and I grind them up into a powder, which is like an umami powder. And then I use that for like flavoring stuff. Like you can put it on steaks and things like that. It's really nice. And then for the the actual mushrooms themselves. I'll put it in ramen and all kinds of stuff. It's great. It's really tasty. No, not the same bag in this case. It's the same couple of bags. So like I did a tester bag, and you can keep them in the refrigerator for up to 6 months where they're like dormant. The way that you do shiitakes is really funny. You trick the mushroom into thinking it went through winter and thawed out. And the way that you do this is you put it in the refrigerator, and then when you take it out of the refrigerator, you put it in cold water for like 6 hours, and you hold it down with a weight. And then you take it out of the water, and then you put it out. So it thinks that it went from a cold condition into a wet condition into like a normal temperate condition, and it thinks that it has gone through like winter and then spring, and then it grows. And it's like, oh, wow, yeah, it's time for me to do it. All the conditions are met, and then like then they grow. So like shiitakes are really weird, man. Yeah, you speed run the seasons. And it's like you can get kits and stuff like this. It's not hard to access or anything like that. But yeah, you can get kits and set them all up. Morels are complicated. And the reason morels are complicated is because you need to have conditions where there was a burn recently. So like there has to be ash on the ground, and it's a whole thing. That's a really difficult one. I know China's gone really, really far in finding ways to cultivate morel mushrooms. They've done a fantastic job. Like a fantastic job doing that. And they have whole morel farms, which is really interesting shit. They can grow on special roots too. Yeah, that's called mycorrhizal. When they form relationships with the trees and they pass nutrients back and forth, basically. Mycorrhizal is kind of interesting. There's a lot of mushrooms that work that way. Mushroom gaslighting, yes.